Ukraine just pulled off a move straight out of a military thriller. A precision drone strike that hit a Russian dam and turned the battlefield into a raging flood. In seconds, what looked like solid ground for Russian troops became a trap of swirling water, sweeping away vehicles, equipment, and any plans for a quick victory. The hit targeted the Belgorod Reservoir Dam in Russia's Belgorod region, a spot that's been a launchpad for Moscow's attacks since the start of the war. This region sits right on Ukraine's doorstep, its long border stretching along the south and east, making it a crucial lifeline for Russian operations. For months, Russia has used Belgorod to push into Ukraine's Kharkiv and Luhansk regions, while Ukraine has hit back with drones and missiles, striking deep into key Russian infrastructure. Lately, Russia's focus has been on Vovchansk, a small city near the border that once held around 17,500 people. Before the war, it was just another peaceful Ukrainian town. Now, after relentless bombardment during the 2024 Kharkiv offensive, it's a shattered shell of concrete and dust. But even in ruins, Vovchansk matters. Its position gives whoever holds it a major tactical edge. For Russia, capturing it would mean securing one of the largest border settlements in the area, perfect for setting up a forward base for deeper attacks into Ukraine. Its main highway, the T2104, runs right through the heart of the city, connecting it to other Ukrainian towns. That road has been Ukraine's lifeline, keeping fuel, ammunition, and supplies flowing in to hold the line against Russia's advances. And that's exactly why this new strike on the Belgorod Dam hit so hard. If Russia manages to seize Vovchansk, the payoff could be huge. The same roads that have helped Ukraine hang on would suddenly work in Russia's favor. Commanders could move troops and vehicles faster, plan offensives more easily, and hit new targets without wasting time sending scouts across rough terrain. With the T2104 highway running straight through the city, the entire area could turn into a launchpad for deeper pushes into Ukraine. But there's more behind this fight than just one city. Vovchansk fits neatly into Vladimir Putin's bigger plan. The idea of creating a security zone along Russia's border to keep Ukrainian forces at bay. Back in May, Putin even confirmed it himself, saying that Russia's military was working to build this buffer zone to shield regions like Belgorod from future attacks. Capturing Vovchansk would be a major step toward making that plan real. And if Russia does take it, the ripple effects would be immediate. Ukraine couldn't just sit back and watch. Kyiv would likely have to shift troops from other regions to defend nearby towns or launch a counterattack to take the city back. But doing that would stretch Ukraine's defenses thin elsewhere, possibly giving Russia openings along other parts of the front. The balance in the border war could shift fast. That's the thing about war. Every move sets off a chain reaction. One strike, one capture, one retreat can ripple across the map, reshaping battles hundreds of miles away. And for Russia, taking Vovchansk would be more than just a symbolic win. It would finally give them something big to boast about after years of grinding with little to show. Since 2022, they haven't managed to capture a single major Ukrainian city, despite pouring in money, troops, and endless firepower. So even a shattered, half-empty Vovchansk could look like a prize. That's why the Kremlin has thrown serious muscle into this offensive. Reports say several top-tier units, including the 82nd Motor Rifle Regiment, the 2nd Guard Spetsnaz Brigade, and both the 128th and 138th Guards Motor Rifle Brigades, are all fighting in the area. For a while, it even looked like those efforts were paying off. On October 26th, Russian General Valery Gerasimov told Putin that their forces had taken about 70% of the city. But that claim didn't hold up for long. Analysts and open-source intelligence groups, including the Institute for the Study of War, quickly challenged his statement, saying there was no solid proof to back it up. Their data showed Russian troops had captured only around 23% of Vovchansk, not even a third. Ukrainian soldiers on the ground painted a similar picture. They explained that Russia's recent push took advantage of the dry summer and low river levels, which made it easier to move supplies and troops. The thick trees also gave cover, allowing Russian forces to sneak closer without being spotted. Still, those short-term gains came at a brutal cost. Some Russian units were hit so hard that entire battalions were nearly wiped out. The 1st Battalion of the 82nd Motor Rifle Regiment, for example, was reduced to just a handful of officers before being pulled back to regroup. So while Moscow's generals might be boasting about victories, the reality on the ground tells a very different story. Wait a second. If you are new to this channel and you like what you see and hear, please subscribe, like, and join the conversation below. If you're not convinced yet, subscribe and tell us how we can earn that click. We're all about getting better together. Let's move on. Even though Russian forces managed to squeeze out a few gains around Vovchansk, their progress was about to hit a wall, or rather, a wave. Just as they were settling into their new positions, Ukraine launched a strike that flipped the entire battlefield upside down. On October 24th, Ukrainian troops set their sights on the Belgorod Reservoir Dam, and the results were devastating for the Kremlin's front line. Russian media quickly reported the attack, claiming that Ukraine used US-supplied HIMARS missiles to hit the target. The first strike damaged several key structures: buildings holding technical equipment, one of the dam's lifting mechanisms, and even part of the crest itself. Then, the next day, Ukraine hit again. Precision drone strikes pummeled already weakened sections of the dam, opening cracks that unleashed a powerful surge of water. And this wasn't some minor leak. Russia's own Federal Water Resources Agency confirmed that the dewatering outlet and both segmented gates were severely damaged, causing the reservoir's water level to drop by an entire meter. Dozens of engineers and emergency crews were rushed in, trucks lined up, repair teams scrambled, but it was already too late. Once a dam gives way, there's no pressing pause. The water doesn't wait. Within hours, floodwaters tore through the nearby Seversky Donets basin and spilled into surrounding villages. Reports of flooding came pouring in from at least 10 settlements across the Shebekino district. Belgorod's regional governor, Vyacheslav Gladkov, even took to Telegram to warn that if the dam took another hit, it could flood parts of the Kharkiv border region and several Russian villages, threatening around 1,000 residents. Temporary housing was quickly offered to those in danger. But it wasn't civilians who took the hardest blow. It was the Russian army. In minutes, entire trench networks and fortified positions were swallowed by water. What had been solid defensive lines turned into muddy pits and swamps. Videos from the scene flooded social media, showing vehicles half-submerged and soldiers stranded, complaining that they now had to swim to reach their posts. For Russia's frontline troops, the battlefield had just turned into a watery trap, and Ukraine was watching it all unfold. The footage coming out of Belgorod looked like something out of a disaster movie. An entire road swallowed by water, military trucks half buried in sludge, and makeshift crossings collapsing under the surge. Russian trenches were drenched and caving in. One soaked soldier summed it up grimly. After the Belgorod Dam broke, we went from being infantry to Marines overnight. And we were the lucky ones. The next position over was completely flooded, dugouts, and all open-source analysts later confirmed just how bad it was. Satellite images showed a wide stretch of land downstream from the Belgorod Reservoir underwater. Vehicles, ammo depots, and fortifications had been literally washed away. The water kept rising, pushing deeper into nearby settlements and wiping out key Russian military positions in its path. This wasn't just a nuisance or a muddy setback. It was a total logistical nightmare. Entire Russian units found themselves stranded, their supply routes gone, their gear submerged. Some troops were cut off completely, isolated and exposed to Ukrainian attacks. Reports indicated that at least 4 major brigades, the 68th, 116th, 128th, and 136th, were in serious danger of being wiped out within days. Ukraine's 16th Army Corps confirmed as much in a telegram update, explaining that the dam strike had turned the entire situation on its head. After the Belgorod dam strike, it began leaking, they wrote. The reservoir's water level dropped by a meter in just one day. The water flowed straight into the Seversky Donets and right into the Russians' trenches. Enemy logistics have been severely disrupted. The units that crossed the river are now cut off from their main forces. It was a brilliant tactical play, a move that combined engineering precision with military timing. Ukraine knew that brute force alone wouldn't stop the Kremlin's push toward Vovchansk. So instead of fighting head-on, they let nature do the heavy lifting, using the floodwaters themselves as a weapon. Ukraine knew it couldn't win this fight through sheer numbers, not when Russia could throw wave after wave of troops at the front. So instead of trying to match manpower with manpower, Ukrainian commanders turned to something far more valuable: ingenuity. They came up with a plan so bold, so unconventional, that most armies wouldn't have even imagined it. While others might have dug in at Vovchansk and braced for a long, desperate defense, Ukraine took a completely different approach. They studied Russia's positions, pinpointed their concentrations, and spotted the perfect vulnerability: the Belgorod Reservoir Dam. One strike, perfectly timed, and the battlefield itself would do the fighting. And that's exactly what happened. The flood flipped the script overnight. Russian troops who'd been preparing to advance suddenly found themselves trapped in a swamp. Their supplies gone, their trenches destroyed, their escape routes underwater. Instead of planning their next offensive, many were just trying to stay alive, slogging through waist-deep water, cut off and exposed. For Ukrainian units nearby, this created a rare opportunity. Isolated Russian soldiers, scattered and vulnerable, easy to pick off or capture. It was a masterstroke of modern warfare, a clean example of brains beating brawn. Repairing the dam could take weeks, maybe longer, and even then, heavy rains could make things worse. For now, at least, Vovchansk looks set to stay under Ukrainian control. And in a way, the whole incident sums up the war itself. Russia, the Goliath, keeps swinging with overwhelming firepower: drones, missiles, tanks, artillery, hoping to crush its smaller neighbor through sheer force. But Ukraine, like David, keeps finding clever ways to strike back, hitting not where Russia is strong, but where it least expects. The Belgorod strike was just the latest reminder that in this war, strategy can sometimes weigh more than size. The Belgorod Dam strike wasn't just another headline. It was a statement, a vivid reminder that creativity can change the course of war as much as firepower can. Ukraine showed that a well-timed, well-planned move can drown out even the loudest giant. But what happens next? Will Russia be able to rebuild its supply routes and regain its footing around Vovchansk, or has Ukraine permanently shifted the balance in this part of the front? Could this kind of tactical ingenuity inspire similar strategies elsewhere in the conflict, or even in future wars across the world? And perhaps most importantly, how far can Ukraine's resourcefulness go in a fight that still seems far from over?